Have you ever felt like you've been chasing your dreams only to find them out of reach? What if the secret to achieving everything wasn't out there, but within you? I'm John Burchill, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Inner Vision Life, where we explore how true transformation, true manifestation, it flows from the inside out. So in this video, we're going to be diving into a revolutionary approach, introducing a new paradigm that goes beyond the law of attraction. So you're going to be aligning your inner world with the life you desire. And so if you're ready to unlock the power within you, let's get started with this video. All right, so we're going to be doing a little bit of comparing and contrasting between the law of attraction and this new paradigm that I'm introducing, which is Inner Vision Life. They have different focuses, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is law of attraction. Is the focus of the law of attraction is very simply, it's about having. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with want to have more, to want to have a nice car, to want to have a nice house, to want to have a nice job. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. What's important to note is that with Inner Vision Life, it's just adding on to the law of attraction and also having some very unique takes and paradigms when it comes to that. When it comes to Inner Vision Life, though, the focus in addition to having would be being. Hence, why we are called human beings rather than human doings. And so what it's saying is that it's reversing the order, that in order to have what I want, I first need to be what I want. And so rather than saying if I have a Ferrari, then I will be happy. Inner Vision Life says that if I'm already happy, if I have this inner peace, then I'm going to resonate with the frequency of that Ferrari. And so if I'm becoming more happy, and if I'm being more in touch with the here and the now, well, I'm going to attract what I want faster. And so it's a win-win. So you get to have that inner peace, and you also get to have those outer desires. And so how many people do you know have all the riches in the world, but inside they're lonely, they're not happy? And so this is a win-win. So you get to have what you want, and you get to also resonate and be with that frequency and have that inner peace, have that inner joy, and have that inner being, hence the being and the becoming human being. All right, so now let's talk about the source of desires. So what we want, where does it come from? And so when it comes to the law of attraction, our desires come from the external world. And so this means that they come from the outside of ourselves, rather than inside. And so with the law of attraction, we're utilizing things like vision boards to materialize or manifest the things that we want. And again, nothing wrong with that, but in Inner Vision Life, we're respecting that, and then we're actually taking it a little bit further, a step further, and saying that with Inner Vision Life, desires actually come from within us. Hopefully you can read that, within. I have terrible handwriting, there's no doubt about that. And so they come from within, and so it emphasizes that they come from the field of all possibilities, and the field of all possibilities is found within us. It's not found without us or outside of us. And so this perspective, it mirrors what's called the law of resonance, suggesting that internal states that resonate with the outside world, so that resonates with, let's say I want a Ferrari, when I have the internal state that matches that, and so that internal creative intelligence, I attract that to myself. And so the law of attraction, desires are going to be external, and so they are outside of us, and something that that we see outside of ourselves. And what that does is it creates a sense of separation from the subject and the object, the subject being ourselves, and the object, again, if we're talking about a Ferrari, is that object. And so it's that separation of us, and it actually keeps us from our material desires. And that's not to say that vision boards don't work. I certainly utilize them as well. But again, I believe that's a surface level thing. And with Inner Vision Life, what we're doing is that we're cultivating this internal bliss, these internal frequencies that actually have this resonating joyous vibration. So if you think about a Ferrari, it absolutely has this fast and furious, and I mean that in a good way, and this joyous vibration. And so it's not something found outside of us, and we actually have to transcend our mind and go within and cultivate this creative intelligence, create this field of all possibilities within our nervous system in order to attract the external reality that we want. And so I'll talk about in some other videos how we can cultivate the internal bliss in other videos. That's not the purpose of this video, but I will mention that I think a fundamental flaw of the law of attraction is that desires, they are something that's coming outside of ourselves. And so vision boards are great, but again, you're trying to attract something outside of yourself, and with Inner Vision Life, we're cultivating that internal bliss. And as a result, we come to understand that we're not actually separate from our desires. We're not actually separate from anything. We are connected to everything on that deeper, more fundamental layers of life underneath the 3D world. And so that is a very different separation, and probably a good core principle of Inner Vision Life is that our desires, they come from within, and so we want to cultivate those changes within ourselves. All right, now I want to talk about the process of achievement, and it's a little bit different when it comes to the law of attraction as it is for Inner Vision Life. And so when it comes to the law of attraction, when it comes to the process of achievement, it's really about performing or performance. And that honestly puts a lot of pressure on ourselves, quite a bit actually. And there's also some pitfalls about that. For example, when you're using affirmations, say positive affirmations, and you're using something like saying, I am prosperous and I am abundant. I am prosperous and I am abundant. When you're saying that over and over and over again in hopes of performing, in hopes of attracting that, and deep down you don't actually believe that you are abundant, that money flows to you, what you're actually doing is reinforcing the exact opposite. And so with the process of achievement, when it comes to Inner Vision Life, it takes the pressure off you, and it's really about becoming. I have some sweet handwriting, don't I? So it's about becoming. And so let's talk about that in terms of goals. And so when it comes to the law of attraction, when you set a goal, you say, for example, I want to get a job. Well, you're gonna set that goal. Maybe you set up some smart metrics, so it's measurable, it's attainable, it's results oriented, and it's time bound. So it's a smart goal. But the thing with that, with the law of attraction, is you are working towards the goal. Now, when it comes to Inner Vision Life, you are actually identifying a goal, but you're working from the goal. And so what that means is that you're actually you are stepping into that identity of the person that's assumed the goal and who's achieved the goal. So let me give you an example. There was a job that I really wanted years ago, and it was this chief of staff role. The big thing about that was that I had spent my whole career outward facing, working with customers, and doing that type of work. And this chief of staff role was really a huge evolution of my personal development. It was internally focused, and I would be one of the top leaders in the organization, and it was a complete shift. And I remember preparing for the interview and just being really, really nervous. And then I thought about it. I understand positive psychology. I understand Inner Vision Life. And so I had this goal of becoming a chief of staff. And so what I wanted to do was to assume the identity of the chief of staff in the interview and as I prepared for that interview. So I thought, how would a senior leader act in an interview? How would a senior leader prepare for an interview? And how would a chief of staff answer those questions? And so what I did was I created the goal, but rather working to the goal, I decided to work from the goal and step into that identity right then and there. And again, it's about becoming. So obviously, there's going to be many different skill sets that I lack when it comes to a chief of staff, because it's about becoming, not necessarily performing. And so it's a big mind shift. So when it comes to the law of attraction, very often there's something called, and I'm not going to write it down, but it's a fixed mindset. But when it comes to the inner vision life, it is a growth mindset. And so it's this process of always becoming. And I think a really important one when we talk about the goals, again, working from the goal rather than to the goal. And so that's what inner vision life is about when it comes to the mode of the process of achievement and always becoming more so that you can be more and take that pressure off of yourself. All right, the last thing I want to talk about, which is probably fundamentally one of the biggest principles to introduce, and I'm pretty excited to introduce this one, the difference between the law of attraction and inner vision life, and that's the level of application. And so when it comes to the law of attraction, the level of application is on the conscious level. So it's on the surface level of life. That means it's on the 3D level of life, the manifest layer of life, which is the field of relativity. It means that it's that which is always changing, it's coming and going. And so what I just said a couple of minutes ago, that's the past. And as Mike Tyson would say, the future is a mystery and the past is history. So that's a big difference, is that what you're doing with the law of attraction is you are actually training the ego. That's incredibly important. And actually, to be truthful, that's a lot. I do teach quite a bit of that because we do work in the 3D world, and that's very important to do, especially in terms of positive psychology. So as a coach, I use that, the PERMA V model, for myself and for others. However, the level of application when it comes to inner vision life is actually not the conscious level, but the super conscious level. So it's really, you're dealing with the transcendental level of life. So this is actually the unmanifest that we're working with. And so in inner vision life, it's not just about working with the mind, it's actually working with something that's more powerful than the mind, and that is it's actually a process of transcending the mind, so that when we take that rest and dive within, when we're back into activity, we have more dynamism. And so you're actually going to the subtler levels of the mind. We're using something that a lot of people would call transcendental consciousness. In my training and in my personal experience, we could call it the super conscious level of the mind. It's below the surface level. Another level to say we're working with is a unified field, if we're talking about physics. And so this is where the home of all the laws of nature reside, where creative intelligence lies, where we have infinite dynamism to create vigorous activity within ourselves, to create within the 3D world. And it's where we are unbounded and we're outside of time and space. And so this is really one of the fundamental principles of inner vision life. And that is, again, transcending the mind altogether, changing from the inside. And so it's not a quick fix, but what I will say is that it is a permanent fix. And that sounds pretty exciting, I bet. So the universe doesn't respond to your wants, it mirrors your being. You don't attract what you wish for, you attract what you embody. So that means you don't manifest what you want, you're going to manifest what you are from the inside. And so inner vision life postulates that our external reality is merely a reflection of this internal being. And so if you're interested in shifting from wanting to embodying, from performing to becoming, make sure to subscribe to more videos where I'll be talking about a lot of other cool stuff, positive psychology, consciousness and human potential, and all underneath the umbrella of inner vision life. So like and subscribe for more, and I'll catch you on the next video.